So here is a summary of another subject, the long tail. So let's think about it for a moment. If we have like 5.3 billion internet users nowadays, how would you think it would impact the variety of digital products or digital services? So there's a very large market. What do you think? Should the variety be larger? So of course, there is a huge variety of digital products or services, and that's because the market is very, very large. Okay, so that's what we're going to discuss today. Basically, we know that the larger the market, the more division of labor there is. In other words, in a large market, because of the fixed costs that each product or each business or each startup has, because of those fixed costs, in a small market, many products and services are not economically viable. However, in a large market, even if, let's say, 0.001% would buy, you can still cover your fixed cost and your business will be economically viable. Think about a classic bookstore. Classic bookstore will keep on stock only the hits, because this bookstore has to pay rent and utilities and salaries and so on. However, a digital bookstore can have a much larger variety of books, of digital books, because it has no rent, no utilities. The costs are usually very small. The marginal cost is very, very small, nearly zero. So even if people would buy only, a few copies of a very rare book, it will still be economically viable. So in other words, we have a much larger variety on the internet because of the size of the market. Catalogs are huge. Catalogs may have millions of different products and services. So that means that even a small niche can be economically viable. A small niche that in a physical bookstore or a physical cinema would not have, or a physical music store would not have enough market. So actually, we talk about a paper that was published 20 years ago, but this paper is very relevant also today. So the guy who wrote it is called Anderson, and that's what he says. There's a long tail, and that's millions of niche markets. And we find long tails almost everywhere. There's a long tail of videos on YouTube. There is a long tail of articles on Wikipedia. There is a long tail of music on Spotify. There is a long tail of digital books on Amazon and so on. So there are many, many long tails on the internet. And basically, media industries now offer something that, well, maybe not unlimited, but quite a vast selection of different products and services. So physical retailers, they would usually have the hits. 20% of the products will make 80% of the income. However, we talk about a different economy here, where actually sometimes the niche markets generate more income than the hits. So that's if you want a visual image of the long tail. Here you have popularity on the vertical axis, and on the horizontal axis products. And the more popular they are, of course, the more likely they are to control the physical world. However, if we look at the long tail in the digital world, on the internet, actually sometimes it will be larger. In other words, the income from those niches, even though each niche is not very popular, but the income from all of them together, if you aggregate all of them together, can be higher than the income that you make from popular products. So Anderson compares iTunes and Walmart. iTunes, of course, has no shelf space and no manufacturing cost. It's the server and no distribution cost, because the internet is universal and it goes in the speed of light to anywhere on the planet. So any sales have the same margin. However, Walmart will actually have CDs. Again, it's a paper from 20 years ago. We'll have on stock only CDs that sell at least 100,000 pieces a year, and only 1%, according to Anderson, of all CDs do that kind of volume. He also compares Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Barnes & Noble, these are very large bookstores in the US, they have 130,000 different titles on average, but he claims that Amazon makes most of its income, 57%, from outside the top 130,000 titles. In other words, Amazon make more money from the long tail, from niche markets. And that's perhaps the main point. Don't ignore niche markets, because if you actually manage to aggregate them and sell together, you can make perhaps more money than you make from hits. So there is some profit threshold. In other words, if you look at the vertical axis, you see sales and the horizontal titles. So of course, a physical retailer would have to sell a minimum from each title to make it actually worthwhile. So it will be economic for him. On the other hand, a pure digital retailer, an online store that sells digital songs or movies or books, will actually have to sell a few titles a year just from each niche, just to make it economically viable. And if you're a hybrid, in other words, you sell physical goods from, let's say, some warehouse in the periphery. So if you sell physical goods in an online store, you're somewhere in the middle. In other words, the more digital you are, the lower your profit threshold is. So even a product that sells a few pieces each year, even a title that sells just a few copies a year, will be economically viable. So you can have a much, much larger variety, much, much larger catalog. So what should we do with it? Mr. Anderson says, make everything available. Of course, embrace niches. We want to sell to niches. We will aggregate them all in one place. And he claims it's more expensive to evaluate than to release. In other words, you don't have to conduct a market research. You should simply offer it on your platform and sell it. The second rule is about the price. He says, cut the price enough, now lower it. In other words, he says you should sell it in a very low price. He gives the example of Rhapsody. They sold 3 times more songs for 49 cents compared to the regular price of 99 cents. And Mr. Anderson claims that actually your choice as a customer is between buying, paying somebody, or downloading illegally. And when you download illegally, first of all, there is a legal risk. It can consume time. Sometimes you download viruses or low quality. So basically, if you offer a fair price and it's easy to use, you can fight piracy. That's his idea. That's his recommendations. And the third one, we should help them find it. Okay, we need both, not only the hits and not only the niches. We need both hits and niche markets or niche products. Okay, so it's not, the bottom line is not sell only to niches. The bottom line is sell to both the best sellers and the niche markets. So what does he mean by help me find it? He looks at Amazon, for example. If you bought a song by Britney Spears or an album by Britney Spears, and that's number 340 on the list, I mean, of the most popular CDs, then the system will say, oh, if you like the Britney, you'll probably love Pink, and so on. And of course, you are quite familiar with all those algorithms that recommend more products or more services according to your previous choice. And of course, according to more information they collect or gather about us. So examples for long tail markets, as we said, we have long tail markets. We have long tail videos on YouTube. We have long tail articles on Wikipedia. We have a long tail of keywords on Google, if you advertise on Google. We have long tail of applications in the app stores. There are millions of different applications. We have, of course, long tail of musics, of titles, of songs, of movies, of digital books, and so on and so on. That's it. I'll see you in the next video.